Hi, Stitchers.
Hi!
I'm Laura.
And I'm Keisha, and we're the Pattern Queens, and welcome to Stitch With Us, episode 13. And
Because we
this,
double checked.
we did. I always check right before. I'm the one who's supposed to know what number it is, and I never remember. Laura comes with notes for our regular ones, and I just come to the computer. And this is a channel about cross stitch.
And silliness and rambling and friendship and who knows what else. Black cats.
I guess I should say today is Sunday, June the 13th, and this is our 13th Stitch With Us, so it's perfect.
Ooh, perfect. That worked out well.
We didn't even plan it. If you're new here, welcome, welcome. I'm excited. We're excited to have you here. And if you've been here before, you're like, they didn't have like 10 minutes of rambling about random things before they introduced themselves. That's different.
What's new? Yeah, what happened?
So
yep.
So if you're new here, on the second and fourth Sundays of the month, and it's actually a Sunday this time, we work on projects and we just kind of chat about different things. Sometimes I have questions. Sometimes we're just going to have a general chit chat. So I have been working on R2D2 from Spot Colors. And everything that I have, except for the needle, because the needle that I had was really, really sharp that came in the kit, is from the kit, including the hoop. So here's where I am. I have it upside down. So R2D2 is on the top, and I'm working on BB8. So I just turned it around so I wasn't sticking upside down.
And R2D2 is all the way finished.
All the way finished. So really, I'm working on the light gray on BB8. And then I just have the orange, the dark gray, and the black fill. So I'm either going to finish it this time or next time. More than likely next time. But I'm excited. I've been working on this. I started this in January on our Stitch With Us, and I've only worked on it during Stitch With Us. So.
And I had recently finished the project I was working on. So I've been trying to decide what I'm going to do. The last time we did one of these was for Mother's Day, right?
No, we had one after Mother's Day, but you picked one of the whips you were doing for May.
Okay. I was trying to decide. So this time I am going to continue working on a piece that I started during Mania this year. And it is American Sampler House from Annie B's Folk Art. And I love this. I ended up finding a piece of 28 count spring morning linen from Color and Cotton.
Yes, such a good one.
And it's almost the exact same color.
Nice.
I'm using all the called for flosses. So, and the other fun thing is that I have it in this bag from Lake House Stitch Co.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought this one, and this is what she uses, this cute little lake house.
Oh, cute.
And there's her name. Mm-hmm. I bought this because when I first started learning to make book sleeves and I was doing some practice runs, I found that fabric at a shop near me and I made a book sleeve out of it. So it was kind of fun to see that pop up. I thought, I have to have it.
Oh, for sure. I guess I should have said the fabric that was in the kit is a 14 count, just white Aida, and then it's stitched in DMC.
We do have new people. We've had quite a few new followers lately. I think it's because of the under 1,000 sub club. And sorry, I had to shift there and get turned the right way. And we've picked up some viewers because of that. So if you are here because of a recommendation, please let us know so that we can go back and say thank you and yes, shout them out as well. We love that.
For sure.
We know that shout outs work because our friend Michelle Bendy did a kitted projects parade this week. And all of a sudden, Love You More started having a bunch of orders and of random things.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally kind of figured it out and messaged her and said, "What did you do? I haven't caught up with your channel yet. Did you do a whip braid? What did you do?" And she told me that she showed her kitted projects. So, and I haven't had a chance to go see it, but I love to see those kinds of things. So I have to go watch.
Right. Well, Michelle's fun because she just has kitted up projects of just every sort of thing. She stitches so many different styles of things that it's fun to kind of see what she has.
And it is kind of like a project bag parade at the same time.
Right.
I've picked up lots of different bag makers from watching her. So I'm sure they experienced the same things that we did.
For sure. Yeah, see, I just put mine in resealable plastic bags for the most part because those, well, they're a lot cheaper than buying project bags, but not only that, they're a little more durable if you have a boy who likes to look at your bag. So this is where Fun Every Day that I've been working on from Sam Sarah lives, and just with all the flosses and everything. And so James likes to, I have an 11-month-old, if you're new here. He's 11 months old tomorrow, if you can believe it, if you've been around here for a while. But anyway, he will look at this and go, "Oh, colors." And you can seal these pretty tight. He hasn't worked out how to open them yet. And so he'll just look at them and just move things around in them. So we keep most of the things in plastic bags. Though I do have some book sleeves that I have projects in, and he really likes those too, because most of the things I buy are pretty bright and happy. And so he'll be like, "Ooh, I would like to look at this," and probably take it and smack it against the table because that will make a noise. So do you want to talk about our trip yesterday?
That could be fun.
Yeah. So yesterday, Laura, Katie Landis, take a drink if that's your game, and I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to the Silver Needle, and that was a great time. It was my first time ever going there, so it was a whole lot of fun. And whenever I walked in there, I think it is, I don't know, it's one of the bigger cross stitch shops I've ever been to. I haven't been to that many cross stitch shops, I guess, but just the amount of stuff there was amazing.
So I've listened to people talk about the Silver Needle for a long time, and
Mhm.
the way that they described it in my head, I thought it was in like some huge warehouse
Mhm.
because they talk about, all of the different things in it. And it's not, it's in a strip mall, but it
Mhm.
has a really good, it's probably a double storefront or maybe even a triple storefront. What
Right.
do you think?
I'd say maybe a triple storefront. Like it's pretty big, but it's not like a warehouse. But what
No.
they have so many things there that they to utilize their shelf space the best, they have like they group patterns and like rubber band them so that you can look at a group and then behind it there'll be another group of similar patterns by the same designer or something like that. And so they just have a whole lot more packed in there than you think is even there. And whenever you go in, you look and you're like, there's so much here.
And also, when we walked in, we knew this ahead of time. The Silver Needle was having a stitching event this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think it probably started on Wednesday or Thursday. I would guess Thursday. And so there were a lot of stitchers up and moving around when we were in there, and they were all over the shop. So not only is it overwhelming to walk into the shop, but there were all of these people there.
Right.
And it was awesome. And really, they were up because they were getting ready to go to lunch.
Mhm.
which happened after about 10 or 15 minutes of us being there. So
Right.
then we pretty much had the shop to ourselves for a while.
Yeah. Well, and even with the people there, I mean, there was so much area that it didn't feel like it was cramped or anything like that.
Yes. A big excitement for me is that one of the very first people that I saw was Laura Duet from Brenda and the Cereal Starter. So Laura is the cereal starter, and we share a name, although she says Laura and I say Laura. We had that discussion. I got to talk to her and just thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. She's such a lovely woman. And I didn't get a chance to talk because they were going pretty quickly. But Carol, the salt box stitcher, was with her as well. And they were getting ready to go to lunch. And I think Carol was checking out at the counter. So, but that was fun to see a couple of people that I recognized. And
Right. Well, and it was interesting. So, um, I've watched Brenda and the Serial Starter a few times, but my Flosstube watching has really fallen off since having James. And so I walk over and Laura's talking to someone, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And I just like kind of go in because I just wanted to see what Laura was looking at and just kind of joined the conversation. And you know how sometimes you look at someone and you're like, I know who you are. Why can't I place you? I know that I know you from somewhere. And so then, of course, Laura is a good friend and is like, well, you know who this is, right? Laura from Brenda and the Serial Starter. And I'm like, yes, that's who you are. It's not like you're wearing a name tag or anything. Everyone there for the event was wearing a name tag.
yeah, so it was fun. I mean, it's always fun to go someplace and you're able to see people. We had a whole discussion about heights
Yes.
because I think when you see people on video, you always think that they are taller than they are or shorter than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just funny because you just picture people at a certain height.
Right. Well, and
So,
because especially in these sorts of videos, like maybe, I mean, this is usually what you see of just about everyone. Everyone is kind of sitting down, so you just see like the face, and usually we're covered in some sort of fabric, so you don't really see, um how tall everyone is. Yeah, that was kind of funny. We had this whole conversation about who was taller or shorter than we thought that we had met in person. One person that came up, because it's one of the only other like floss tubers that I watched before that I met in person, is Michelle Bendy, who I thought was probably very tall. Well, not very tall, but like taller than me is what I thought. And she's not. She's probably a little bit shorter than me. And I say that I'm 5'3", but I'm probably 5'2.5". So, but
I'm only about 5'4", but you know.
so it's just it's interesting when you meet people in person that you've only seen on screen. Um,
Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's Peddler, Kitten Stitcher, all those names, is taller than I thought.
really?
She's probably 5'8" or 5'9".
Oh wow.
And when I met her at Galleria, I thought, wow, you're
Yeah,
really tall. So yes, it's
I think
always
that's
fun to see those people.
right. I think that's so interesting. And then of course with us, we wore our masks into the shop. And most of the people who were there for the event weren't wearing masks, but they had been like sitting in close quarters around tables with each other. So, there was already that level of trust. So they weren't wearing masks to just shop for the most part.
We
So,
are still wearing our masks from my house because the other two in my house are not fully vaccinated yet. They have now just this week gotten their first shots. So
mhm,
we try and wear ours still to make sure that we're not exposing them.
right. And me and my husband are fully vaccinated, but
Mhm.
James can't get a vaccine. So usually whenever we go out someplace, we'll wear our masks. Like if we go to a restaurant or something, we'll wear our masks until we're seated and everything like that. And if I'm just shopping, I'll wear a mask. Just to keep him safe, just until all the infection rate goes down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. But I think where you were going with that is that it did confuse Laura a little bit because she was having to look at us like this.
Right.
And you guys aren't used to seeing us like that.
Right. So yeah, I was telling my husband, because he asked, because I was like, I wonder if I'll see anybody that I know, or, or if anybody's going to recognize me, which is weird that anyone would recognize me. But he's like, so did anyone know who you were? And I said, probably not, because I just looked like a short woman with long brown hair. Couldn't see my face, not unless you heard my voice. So I told Laura, I was like, maybe, I feel like some of the floss tubers I've watched, I might be able to recognize a voice, because a lot of the times I stitch whenever I'm watching Flosstube.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll only look up for, look at this. And I'll be like, oh, yes, that's a very nice cross stitch. And then I will look down and continue my stitching. So I wonder if that's the same with a lot of people, where it might even be that the voice is more recognizable if everyone were wearing masks,
Sometimes hair color helps me too, because it's more distinctive on some people than others. So
Well, that's true. If it was a person with blue hair that you watched and you went to a place and saw a person with blue hair, you might think that that's the person you knew. Well, and I guess sitting like this, no one really even knows how long my hair is, except for the fact that it goes down past the screen.
yes.
And I have pretty long hair, because I need to get it cut.
And okay, so mine is most oftentimes down during our videos.
Mhm.
But when I am out, especially when I'm shopping, I don't want my hair in the way. It is up in a bun on top of my head. So I would not look the same then either.
Right.
I think our next video, our next floss tube, is going to be a lot of fun, because there's going to be a big section of new acquisitions.
Yeah. I sent my husband a text after I checked out that said, my debit card gently weeps.
When I got home, I had another package here from Artist Designs.
Oh, yes.
So I'm pretty excited.
I love her things.
Now I need to just contact my friend Beth, our friend Beth, Busy Bee Silly Me, or Busy Bee Stitches, because I know she got the kit as well, and I think we're going to sell it.
Ooh, nice.
So depending on what she says, it may actually be started before you guys get to see it.
Yeah, I've already started something that I bought at the Silver Needle, so I'm sorry.
Keisha and I have come up with an addendum to the Flosstube rule.
Laura said that I can start things that I purchased before I show them on Flosstube if I show them to another Flosstuber, which is a very big loophole, seeing as how Laura is a Flosstuber. But and we usually shop together.
Who I actually meant was Laura Duet, because you showed all of the lovely Mill Hills. Katie was off shopping and did not get involved in all this. Katie Landis was off shopping. Get your beverage. But Keisha was a little bit in heaven.
So I had been told, and I had been shown even, whenever they'd been to the Silver Needle before, that there is quite the Mill Hill selection at the Silver Needle. And usually whenever I go to a cross stitch shop, I usually have like a list of things that I need. And so then I just go straight usually to the floss because I'm like, I'm going to get the things that I need before I start shopping for other things. And I didn't have that list this time. So I'm like, I don't know where to go. But as soon as you walk in there, you can look to the back. And I saw them. I saw all of the beautiful Mill Hill kits. And so I'm like, guys, I'm going to go back there. See you later.
And I think the thing that makes it even better is that they have so many models.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So most of the Mill Hill kits come with perforated paper. There are some that come with fabric, but for the most part, a lot of the like regular series, like the Santas and everything, come on perforated paper. And I always just use the perforated paper because that's what came in the kit. I like perforated paper, so that's what I do. But they had models stitched on fabric finished into pillows. I saw some teeny tiny over one models that someone did where they used Kreinik instead of beads. I'm like, oh, now I have all of these ideas. Because usually whenever you get a Mill Hill kit, there's quite a bit of floss left over. At least there is for me. I'm pretty conservative with my floss. And so I always have this left over and I'm like, well, what should I do with this? And it would be fun, especially like the ornament size things, to stitch them over one and just have like a little, like almost like stamp book collection of those sorts of things. That could be a fun thing to do.
I have a couple of printers boxes, tin type trays, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have thought that what I would like to do is I've kept all sorts of little scraps from pieces that I've stitched,
Mm-hmm.
scraps of fabric, and I would like to stitch a motif from the piece on the same fabric and put it in those boxes.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I mean, that's been the plan forever, and I never get around to doing it. But you should find one and you could do some of your Mill Hills in the teeny tiny over one and put them in there.
Yeah, that would be fun. It was
You are
just,
the over one queen.
well, not real. I had a good run of I did things over one, and now I have stopped doing that. But I do enjoy doing over one from time to time. It's just kind of fun to have a teeny tiny thing. But that just takes a little bit more concentration because you really have to watch your stitches. And by the time I get to stitching in the day, I don't usually want to concentrate that hard, at least not right now. So I'll have to pick it up back up later. But yeah, I got more Mill Hills than a person probably needs to buy in a day, but that's okay.
But like I mean, well, okay, we don't want to talk about what you got because you'll show that next week. But there were things that made sense why you ended up with a few extras. So,
but you know what doesn't make sense? That right before I was going to check out, Katie Landis saw something with pineapples on it and was like, oh, that's a really nice one. And I said, oh, well, they have a pineapple Mill Hill kit because she likes pineapples. And she said, well, yeah, but you know, there's something about Katie. She can't like do the perforated paper because, you know, we all have like different oils in our fingers. And so it breaks down the paper a little bit more whenever she tries to do them. And, you know, if you were like stitching it for a long period of time, paper will break down. And so I said, well, I was thinking about buying that pineapple anyway. What if I bought it and just stitched it for you? And I just walked right on back and got an extra one.
and really, you're probably going to have a big enough piece of I can't talk, of perforated paper left over from our Stitch Every Day project on one of your sheets, don't you think?
Yeah, I could probably stitch it again, and there'll more than likely there'll probably be enough. But the nice thing about Mill Hill is they'll put the DMC number. So you can, if you run out of floss, you can do it. And they also tell you what kind of beads are in there if you need to buy additional beads. So I might just have to stitch it for myself too. But we've kind of talked about this before. I feel like I'm more of a process stitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like that that pineapple, and probably wouldn't mind stitching it again for myself because it's an ornament sized one, so it's not really going to take that long to do. I say, and then probably Katie won't get it for another year. But uh, but I really just enjoy stitching things, even if I don't display them. So while I like it, I might not stitch it for myself, but because I've already had the enjoyment of stitching it once, you know, for even if it's for somebody else.
Her birthday is in just under a month.
That's true. I could get it done. That would be a good birthday present. A stitched piece is always a good birthday present.
I got to be very, very pregnant on my birthday that year. So
Yeah.
she was
Luckily, oh, go ahead.
she was due a couple of days before my birthday and came 5 days after it.
Well, James was due 6 days before my birthday, but he had the good sense to just go ahead and come a couple weeks before that, give me some time. No, it was kind of funny. So James's due date was actually July 25th. And when my mom was pregnant with me, my due date was July 24th.
Oh.
And I was born a week late. So I was like, oh no, what if James is born on my birthday or the day after my birthday? So, but no, he came on July 14th, and that's the perfect day for him.
You said today is June 13th, so tomorrow is Flag Day here in the US.
Oh, nice. You'll have to stitch on one of your patriotic pieces with a flag.
Well, this one has a great flag, but now I have put it on here and I'm only supposed to stitch on it on the Sundays.
But you have a project with a fish and a flag.
I certainly do. And it's so close.
Yes.
The flag on that will go so much faster than I thought it would. It looks really, really cool and complicated. And then I really looked at the pattern and I thought, that is so easy. I can't believe that I was thinking it would take so long to get done.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how you look at a cover page and you're like, whew, that's going to be fun, but it's going to be tedious. And then you look at the pattern and you're like, oh, that's how they did that. Well, that's fine. That sometimes happens to me, especially with borders and things that look like they're, you know, going to be really fussy. And then it's like, oh, well, it's just this repeated thing over and over and over. That's easy to do. So I went straight to the Mill Hill kits, but question for you. If you went into a cross stitch shop and you didn't have a list of things to do, would you just go around the shop, or is there a designer that you'd go straight toward?
If it's a shop I'm familiar with, I typically go to the new releases area first. If it's a shop I'm not familiar with, more often than not, I will go to the right and just go through, because I don't want to miss anything. At Silver Needle, there were quite a few people to my right when I went in, and I knew I wanted to look for a specific chart.
Mhm.
So I turned left and went and looked at the blackbird designs first. It wasn't there, but I had to look.
Yeah.
So, and then I also knew that there was a lot of shepherd's bush and all sorts of fun things back at the back when I went that way. So I wanted to go back there.
Nice.
Do you
Yeah.
typically, you said you usually go to the floss and get your things done. I do try and get my list completed first if I
Yeah.
have one.
Right. Well, because so I don't know if this is an apparent thing about me, but I'm definitely oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. So I have to go and pick up the things that I mean to pick up first, even if it means like if I had, a couple of flosses that I needed, I'd go get those. And then maybe I decided to kit something up that I found. I would just go back to the flosses. It's not the most efficient way to shop, but it makes sure that I get my list before I start looking at other things. And then usually I shop with Laura, so I usually go to the left. And we'll just look at things together, which is a lot of fun.
I had
Uh,
not made it very far by the time Keisha finished with Mill Hill because I had stopped to have my chat.
yeah,
So
but I had just been told about this Mill Hill section, and I had been thinking about what I wanted, and so I just went back there. There was maybe one other person looking at things, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go back, and I'm just gonna look at all of it. And I'll come back later if I need to. And so, since Laura hadn't made it very far, I still got to see the rest of the shop. One thing I thought that was really neat about Silver Needle was they have a whole table that's just exclusive things. And so that was really neat to look at. All of the
I know
different.
Katie picked up a couple of things from there. I'm not sure that I picked up anything from it this time.
I picked up something from there.
I do enjoy out there that they have designers that they have so many different designers that I don't regularly get to see.
Right. Well, I thought it was interesting because they had a lot of designers that I mostly see digitally, if that makes sense. They had a lot of physical copies of charts from the Tiny Modernist and Satsuma Street, not just the perforated paper kits that she does, but like actual patterns. There were even some things from the Frosted Pumpkin there that were physical copies. So I thought that was really interesting because those are ones that I usually see. I usually buy PDFs for them.
Mm-hmm. And there were several of the French designers. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
French and Italian. Oh, I had thought of something. One of the things that was fun for me that we got, and I think we both picked this up, and it's not going to spoil any stash to tell you this.
Yeah.
We got the cards for our Stitch Every Day calendar.
Yeah, the Fun Every Day, the perforated paper piece gets mounted to a tag, and then there's a stand that's sold that it's supposed to go on because you're supposed to use them as a perpetual calendar. So yeah, it was really exciting that we found those. So we both got a pack that's enough for our calendar whenever it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a
Well,
while until those things are finished.
and for me, that's kind of exciting that we have them because it encourages me to pull them out and work on them.
Right. Well, and we can finish them as we go too. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking, so those patterns are 38 by 74, each of the tags, and they're all full coverage. And there are 48 of them in the total design. So everyone, this is how many stitches, 134,976. So might not get done this year.
Right. But and then how many did you say for each project?
Oh, in each of the 48,
Yes.
there are 2,812.
Yeah, so almost 3,000 stitches in
Mhm.
each one. I mean, that's crazy.
And let me show you. I'll just, so they're 38 by 74 is how big they are. So I have it. So this is like how big they are, but they're just full coverage. So, and some of them are more involved than just this one. But it's, I mean, I feel like I'm having a lot of fun with this. The way I'm tackling it is I'm just doing a column a day right now. And that's been kind of nice. Of course, it's going to mean that it's going to take me another month to finish just that tag. But I might sit down and finish it up whenever I get closer to the end. But
That's a good strategy with it though. And okay, so there's not a lot on that one, but that color is gorgeous.
oh yeah, so, and I'm just going to show you guys because you're here. So hello.
Bonus content.
So the background is all one color. It's gentle, or let me make sure I'm telling you right.
It's Morning Glory, right?
Yeah, it's Morning Glory. I'm just making sure. It's Classic Colorworks Morning Glory. But it's all, oh, I got to turn it around the right way. It's all one color, but it's so variegated that it just looks really cool. And I'm
I like
stitching.
the up and down stripes too.
Yeah, I like that. That's the way that the model was stitched. And the fun thing about this particular pattern is whoever model stitched it really had a lot of fun with the model stitching and did all sorts of things. Like that one is done in columns so that you can see fun variegation that way. Others are done in boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like, and so that's really fun. Some is stitched in like swirls to follow other swirl patterns in the pieces. It's a lot of fun.
It kind of helps you start to think about how to use your overdyed flosses in a new way too.
Right. And I really appreciate that because I feel like half the fun of using variegated floss is not only are they just beautiful, but you can do so many things with them to add texture and so I think it's fun that that piece does so many different things because a lot of things that you look at, they just kind of stitch back and forth. And so it's kind of nice to see someone who stitches in a different way.
I worked on my long dog this week, and that's one that I am planning to change how I do each section so that the whole thing's not going to be back and forth.
Right.
So I will do some up and down. I will do some back and forth. I may try a diagonal one if I can find one that I think will work easily for that.
Yeah.
And then I plan to do some circular stitching too.
Oh, fun. Yeah, one of my very favorite things to do with variegated floss is to stitch like cursive writing because I love just like following the flows of like the letters and things like that. I really like variegated floss. I think it's fun because it adds another part to the puzzle of cross stitch, I feel like. Part of why I like cross stitch so much is not just creating things, but like whenever I stitch, what's the path I can take where I use the least amount of floss and have the nicest back? Not that I care so much about having a nice back. I mean, nobody's really going to see it. But I just like the puzzle of it. And then variegated floss adds an extra dimension to that, because it's like, okay, this is the color of the floss that I have. How can I use the floss to make it look like I want it to look?
Mm-hmm. I stitched a piece several years ago where they gave us tips on what to do. And it's when the overdyed flosses were brand new. So to think about from the beginning, to think about how to plan your path and how to make things lay where you want them to or give different interest was really fun for me.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time getting my needle threaded.
Oh no.
The eye kind of caught part of the floss. It made it so it was pulling in weird, so I had to cut the tail end of my floss off. That's okay. We're fine. We have it threaded. We're ready to go again.
I am almost finished with the white on this section.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of exciting.
So I'm trying to think about other parts of our trip. We went to a Mexican restaurant. That was fun. If you ever go someplace with us, we're probably going to take you to a Mexican restaurant to eat.
It's one of the things we all three really enjoy.
Well, and it's one of the things where you can find a gluten-free option fairly easily, I feel like. Except for whenever they use the same fryer for everything and you can't have chips.
That's okay. That meant that I was not over full, so.
Well, and it was nice. So Katie saw that they had churros on the menu for dessert. And so she's like, Keisha, would you split churros with me? Because those unfortunately have gluten. So Laura would not be able to split those with us. And I said, of course I'll eat churros with you. Why would I say no? And so so they brought them, and in this little bowl next to the churros, separated from everything, was this little bit of ice cream. So we did all get to split the dessert.
And I love ice cream. If I had thought about it, though, I would have asked them to sprinkle some cinnamon over that too.
Oh yeah, that would have been nice.
I love vanilla ice cream with some cinnamon over it.
I mean, most things can be improved by cinnamon.
I read a while back that is one of the things that is good for a diabetic too.
Oh, really?
Yes. So for a while, I was really good and added cinnamon to my coffee every morning. But when Katie Landis and I started writing together, then we got Starbucks coffee almost every day, which I did have them add cinnamon to my coffee as well. They're willing to do that pretty much anytime. And I love a mocha, and you can always have cinnamon on that. Yes. But I also like a caramel macchiato and a little bit of cinnamon sprinkled over the top of that. Oh my gosh, so good.
I hadn't even thought about that. But as we speak, I'm drinking a cinnamon dolce latte, so also a fan of the cinnamon.
Okay, I'm trying to plan this path here.
So we stopped at this gas station near the Missouri-Oklahoma border, And we went in and they had like video slot machines in there, which I thought was pretty interesting. I did not play them. So I was like, I need to save all of my money for the cross stitch shop.
And you didn't think that you would be improving your amount of cash flow that way, right?
Probably not. I'm not very lucky. Though there was one time, so there is an Ameristar casino not far from where I live. And okay, so we wanted to go see, I think it was the first Fantastic Beasts movie. And everywhere we looked, the show was sold out, except for at the movie theater at Ameristar. We were like, and this was my husband and I, like, okay, well, I guess we're just going to go to Ameristar and see this movie. And this was pre-James, of course. So, excuse me. So we went there and we got there a little early. And so we're like, we'll just play $5 in these slot machines. And Timothy lost all of his money very quickly. And I ended up with $20. So I bought our concessions, and that is the only time I've ever won anything at those sorts of places.
That's so fun though, right?
Yeah.
Several years ago, Nancy and I went to California together, and on the way back, we had a layover in Las Vegas,
Oh, yes.
and not a very long one. And
Mhm.
in the hotel, in the airport, they had some slot machines. They had nickel slot machines.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that was more fun than anything, because when you would win, there would just be tons of coins falling out of the machine because it's
Yeah.
all in nickels.
Right.
It was
Oh,
hysterical.
yeah. I actually, when I turned 21, my mom and I went to Vegas, and I wasn't super interested in like the gambling aspect of it. I never really have been. I'll go, but I'd rather spend my money on doing something different. And I usually just figure that I'm going to lose whatever I put in at a casino anyway. And um so we went, and that was an experience. There were so many lights and so many things, and mostly everything now is, if you like, it puts everything on a card and then you cash out your card. They
Hmm.
had a section at one of the casinos we went to that had the older machines that still gave out coins, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, they have so many slot machines at the airport.
I'm sure that they don't do the nickel machines anymore, but that was just silly fun.
Hmm.
I have never been to Las Vegas other than that layover.
Right. It's a place I would like to go back to, because while I had a good time with my mom was mainly focused on like going to the casinos and things like that. Not, my mom doesn't really gamble much, but we went to Vegas. That was the thing, and she had been to Vegas a few times with my grandma before, um, so that was mostly what she was kind of focused on doing. And so we didn't really go see any shows or anything like that.
Hmm.
And I love to see shows and go do different things. Like, I wanted to go to the Hoover Dam even, and we didn't really do that. And so it's a place that I'd like to go back to someday.
One of the cruises that Jeff and I went on, um, we went to the casino during dinner,
Hmm.
during the dinner hour, because the casino would be mostly empty during that time.
Hmm.
And Jeff has asthma, so he can't really be in there with all of the people smoking. It's too much for him even to walk through there. We usually have to go out of our way to go around.
Hmm.
Um, But we went in, and because there was not hardly anybody in there, the people working had the best time with us
Oh, nice.
because there was just nobody else there. So, they were teaching us a little bit about some of the different games, and we had fun
Mhm.
at the tables that way. Don't touch that, do this, move that.
Yeah.
Not that I
Nice.
could ever do that again, but it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, it was funny when I went to Vegas with my mom because she would be like I would maybe be done um playing, and so but my mom would still be playing, so I would just like kind of go and stand next to her. And you're not allowed to linger on the casino floor if you're under 21 there. I mean, there are a lot of families that stay. We stayed at Circus, so there were, and it's more family oriented. So a lot of families were staying there, and you had to walk through the floor of the casino to get in and out and get different places. So if you were under 21, you had to just kind of keep it moving and be with your parent. So I would just be standing around watching my mom, and so many people came by and were like, "Are you over 21?" So I got carded all the time. I just had to have my ID ready to show them because they would have made me move along. Or they were probably like, "Why is this lady just gambling and making her child stand next to her?" So, but I still get carded on occasion, which I guess is nice. But uh, my husband, so my husband and I have been together for 8 years now. And whenever we first got together, it was less of a big deal for me to get carded because I was 8 years younger than I am now. And so we'd go someplace, we'd go to like a Royals game, and we'd get beers, and they'd card me, but they would not card my husband because he has a beard. Like, the beard is a really good ruse to make people think that you're older than you are. Because we're the same age. My husband is only 2 months older than me.
So had you been the bearded lady, you would have been fine, huh?
I know no one would have carded me then, but I just can't grow one. It comes in really patchy.
Oh, so there were definitely things that I was looking for when we went yesterday.
Yeah.
Were you looking for something other than the Mill Hills?
Um, no, I was mostly looking for, and I found the Mill Hills that I was looking for, plus some. Um, and then really I just wanted to browse the other things. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular except for the things that we need for fun every day.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, Something that I really appreciate about their store, and I think Keisha has a list for next time when we go back,
Mhm.
is that they had so many models. And
Oh my gosh, yes.
in one section, they had small models, so like pincushion size,
Mhm.
and they were in little cases on top of a table. And oh my gosh, there were so many cute ones in there. And that's where I think we were all looking and thinking, oh,
Oh, so one of the things that I found most remarkable, I mean, there were a couple of things that I saw that I was like, not today, but I will buy you eventually. But one of the things that I thought, so they had some shepherd's bush stockings hung up, and they're like, I mean, pretty big stockings, like for
mhm.
Christmas. And then they had one done over one, and it was teeny tiny. And it was just so interesting to see something that is supposed to be so big stitched so small. It was so, so cool. They had a lot of models up, models of things that I've like looked at and admired for a long time. So it was kind of fun to see them stitched up. Um, and then, of course, seeing something stitched as opposed to seeing it like just a picture on a printed pattern makes it so much more desirable, I feel like. I mean,
Yes.
that's how I ended up, well, part of how I ended up with my Erica Michaels piece, the Aberlowney 1825, is I saw it stitched up. And that's what made me fall in love with the piece, not the picture, on the front. Um, so that's one of the cool things about shops like that, is just how many models are up that you can see. Because even if they're not finished in a unique way, even if they're just framed, it's like, wow, that's what it looks like. And we were kind of talking, there are a few things that I like, but I don't know that I'd ever get them and stitch them, because they're big pieces that I might not want to dedicate that much time to stitching up myself, because I'm stitching other things. But to see something in person, you can really appreciate
Yes.
it.
There's a pattern that I had bought recently, and it is shown as a big kind of a spot sampler type thing. And we saw it in the shop, and they had done each of the spots as a separate little piece and put them in a dough bowl. And that was awesome. And I am really thinking long and hard about how I want to do mine now, because not that I'm getting to that anytime soon, but it was just so cool that way.
Right. Well,
Okay.
and then we saw, so you've been talking about that lighthouse pattern that you and Michelle are probably going to sell. And they had it all stitched up. And then they had it stitched up over one. So cool. So cool.
It does make me think, do I want to do mine over one? Do I want to do mine on something really tiny?
Right.
What do I want to do? And guys, when I say really tiny for me would be 40 count. And I would have to really long and hard think about that.
Right.
Over one, um, I know I have some 25 count linen here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that I have it in the right color to do that, because it shows through. It pretty much needs to be done on navy, or you have to fill in those sections.
Right.
If I did small enough over one, I suppose I could do it all tent stitch, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the small, or like the highest count fabric I've ever stitched over one on is 36 count.
And that's because some crazy designer made you do that, right?
That's true. So, and this isn't really spoiling anything, because it's a pattern that's out. So Frogwart's Year One has a quote from the book on it. And if you're not into over one stitching, or you're a person who stitches predominantly on Aida, there is a way for, Katie charted it so that you can do it back stitched.
Yes.
But the actual models are stitched with the lettering over one. And I stitched the DMC conversion on 36 count. And that was, it was last year that I kind of started stitching, trying to learn how to stitch things over one. And then Katie gave me that, and I was like, well, I guess I'll do this, because I had stitched over one. I think there was something I had done where I'd stitched over one on 32 count. So I was like, well, this is the smallest I've ever stitched.
And we didn't even really think about it
Mm-hmm.
until we're mid stitch and realizing that, yes, that's going to be over one. So,
And it looks really nice. But oh boy, that was that was an experience. And it's on Well, that one's not on Picture This Plus. So luckily it was like a
It's
more forgiving sort of.
it's fiber on a whim.
Yeah. So it's more forgiving, but then I did some teeny tiny stitches on Picture This Plus,
Oh,
36 count on something else I did, and that. So, and Picture This Plus fabric kind of shrinks up a little bit, right? Whenever it's during the dyeing process. So it gets
washes all of her fabric.
so it gets a little bit tighter. I am just, well, no, I'm not. I still have, you know how whenever you're like, I'm just about done with this. No.
No, you have more than you think.
I have more than I think, but that's okay. Is there
I
any?
put
Oh, go
in
ahead.
quite a few stitches today.
Nice. I don't know. This was one of those chatty times where I didn't stitch as much as I thought I did, but that's okay. I don't always have to stitch as much as I think I should.
Well, I am using a DMC floss, so I'm able to stitch big rows of things. So I've put in a lot of stitches.
Nice.
You know, this is one of those patches where it's just big. I did notice there are a couple slubs, big slubs in this fabric, and I'm not happy with how my stitches are laying in a couple of spots. I'll have to pull out my snag nabbit and see if I can calm them down.
I've just been, I mean, it looks like I have a lot of progress, but I'm in a part where I'm counting quite a bit. So that kind of slows it down.
Yes, and I haven't really had to do that.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to say about our trip yesterday?
Oh, well, on the way home, we had the great sing along.
Oh, we did.
So that was kind of fun. We just put on fun music. We hit a point where Keisha and I were stitching in the car, and that leaves Katie to be driving. And, you know, in spots where we were counting, then she really wasn't getting much out of us. So we turned the music on, and that was kind of fun. And then we were all chatting and again and singing, and it made for kind of a fun end to our trip.
Right. Yeah, we've had like some Disney songs. We had just some musical songs. It was a lot of fun.
Sorry, I was counting. We did have some silly songs and things. So,
Well, Laura and Katie have been trying to convince me that I need to watch the movie Sing. Apparently, James has already listened to the full soundtrack too. I need to get my act together.
It's such a fun movie, and the music is it's just pleasant. It's fun to listen to, and yeah.
I mean, it's one of those movies that whenever it first came out, I saw the advertisements for and was like, oh, that would probably be good. But, you can't keep track of every movie that comes out.
Yes.
So it's just one that kind of slipped by me once it was actually out where I could, view it. So
it is fun, and it's worth watching, and it has a pretty good story. But the music is definitely fun.
we listened to the theme for Gilmore Girls. We all sang along.
And that was kind of a strange compilation of songs. So,
but that's us, though. I'll listen to anything, guys. Really, if you're on a road trip with me, as long as I've got snacks, I'll listen to whatever music you want to listen to.
We had snacks for sure.
Did we? Whenever we stopped at the gas station with the video poker slots, we got chips, and I got chewy sweet tarts, and I was very excited. I didn't eat the chewy sweet tarts until I got home, though, but it was part of my evening snack.
I just realized I'm sitting here getting my Weeks Dye Works floss ready to use, and people talk about this,
Mm-hmm.
and I should just show this. So I
Yeah.
pull mine completely off the card
Mm-hmm.
and I stretch it all the way out. I have 2 sets of ends together.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So I have it folded in half, basically. And then I stretch it all the way out that way. Then I take the center and I put it up with that. And I just fold this in half 3 times because I have discovered then that it will leave me with a piece this long.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can, there, I'll do it diagonally. That's a pretty decent length of floss to use
Right.
because I used to just kind of unroll some and use it,
Mm-hmm.
but now I snip it and snip it at both ends so that I have it ready to go. Then I can put it back on the card and it's in lengths, which
Huh.
don't you wish that they just put it in lengths for you? So now it's like how you get most floss off.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to use that tip because yeah, I always just like kind of cut off and that looks like that's about arm length because I use about an arm length's worth of floss.
It's maybe slightly shorter
Yeah.
than the other ones, but it's not too short.
Right. Well, and I usually do an arm's length for DMC that I usually fold in half anyway. So
Mhm.
so
I
that's good
do
to know because that's
when
one of the
I
things because
go
I've
ahead.
always sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Whenever I get floss, I'm always like, oh yeah, Gentle Arts and Classic Colorworks go ahead and cut it for you, but Weeks doesn't. So that's good to know. I'll have to do that with my Weeks.
I started doing that, dedicatedly doing that, because Katie did the Gilmore Girls pattern and it uses some Weeks Dye Works.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to fight with them the whole time.
Right. Well, that's a good tip.
I do 4 pulls on DMC if I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing big rows of fill in. I
Mm-hmm.
do 3 pulls if I'm not doing, if I still have to do quite a bit, but not huge rows.
Oh. See, I usually do 2 pulls on DMC because I find that the longer um, strands of floss will catch on the edges of my piece or try to catch on my hoop or something like that.
Now, I should say I do that many pulls if I'm folding it in half.
Mm.
And you are always supposed to pull from the end of a skein with the long part of the, you aren't supposed to pull from up here. You're
Right.
supposed to pull, find the end down by this one, by the number.
Yeah, because if you pull from the top, you'll get knots.
Big knots. There you go. Tips during
Yeah.
your Stitch With Us video.
Also, even if you're using 2 lengths of floss, pull them out separately from your 6-stranded piece or you'll get
Yes.
knots.
I just pulled these both out separately and then put them back together. All those little tips that you learn as you go along the way.
Right, but it's not something that really, I mean, people don't really talk about it a whole lot.
And okay, so some of us have just been stitching for a very long time. And we've definitely learned some lovely tips and tricks and things that we can pass along. But also, when Keisha and I started stitching together at Panera, she has shown me 2 or 3 little tricks that she's picked up that I had never heard of.
Yeah. Well, and it's just all in like basically who you watch, because
Mhm.
sometimes you'll get tips from Flosstubers, which is I always enjoy. Um, or things that you kind of figured out on your own, or you stitched with a person one time and they told you how to do it, and so now you do it that way. It's just like my hoop thing, how I stitch basically backwards from what you normally would. I was watching someone on Flosstube who said something about that.
Stitch in the ditch, right?
Yeah, how it makes your ends easier to finish and you don't catch your floss on your hoop as often.
I think it's easier for me to hold it too.
Yeah, well, because you have a flat space to put your hand. You're not just like kind of grasping onto the hoop as much. I feel like
Mhm.
you kind of have a stabilizer.
I learned to do the pin stitch at a retreat. So, and the lady who showed me was so thrilled to get to show me how to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of nice because I mean, we all love this hobby so much that if you're teaching someone something new, you're like, yes, let me show it to you. I would love to do that. Well, I learned how to pin stitch from you.
And I think we decided that when I took pieces in to be framed, that one of the pieces I took is where I showed you how to pin
Yeah.
stitch.
Yep.
Because if you're ever with me and I show you how to do something, I will probably go to the margin
Hmm.
and show you how to do it right at the margin. So it will live in my piece forever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Oh, for sure. Well, and then you have that memory because, I mean, it lets you know how long you've been working on that. That one of the first things, because that wasn't even at Panera. You showed me that we had a get together at Nancy's house. Like whenever I first started stitching with you guys, um, we met at the cross stitch shop and went to a restaurant afterwards. And then not too long after that, like basically the same group was all invited to go stitch at Nancy's house, and not even the house she lives in now, but her prior house.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, those memories and stuff.
It's fun to get together and stitch like that. We've been stitching the last couple of weeks at Panera again with our friend Vicky. And
Mhm.
it's just so fun to get out and go stitch with somebody again and to be in person.
Well, and just the fact that we were at the Silver Needle this weekend and they were having an in-person stitching retreat, and that StitchCon is going on right now.
Mhm.
It's encouraging that those sorts of things are happening again, because I've really missed stitching with people in person.
Me too. Sorry, I got a little froggy.
I mean, we stitch together all the time, but we're not in the same room.
Right. And I've thought for a while that we could be together doing our videos and things, but in some ways it's easier to show them in this format.
Right. Well, and now, my life has changed since we used to get together and do these videos. So now, I can pass James off to Timothy, and then I can, right after we stop, I can head on upstairs and check and see what's going on.
Right. And there's always setup and cleanup when we're in the same space.
Right, right.
And just Missouri goodbyes. So Midwest goodbyes. Yeah.
Yes, yes, for sure. Speaking of Midwest, if you guys are in the Midwest or have traveled to the Midwest to cross stitch shops, let us know what some of your favorites are, because apparently we just drive from Missouri to Oklahoma. Sometimes the Landises go to Nebraska. Arkansas has been thrown out there. So if you know of some good shops in the Midwest, let us know, because Landises will travel and they'll take Keisha along with them.
Yes. Are you close to a stopping point?
Yep, I am just finishing up my row.
Okay, I have 2 stitches left and I will stop on this and put them in my counter. and tell you about the crazy number of stitches I did today.
That's good, because I feel like I barely have any. I need to count mine.
Well, mine were the big long rows, so a lot of fill in. This is, if it moves like this for a while, then I may not take quite as long as I thought maybe I would with it. So that would not make me sad.
Right.
I did 233 stitches today. And again, mine is
Wow.
American Sampler House by Annie Beez Folk Art. And it probably won't look, and I have this pulled so that my house looks wonky, but I finished filling in the white over on this side of the door by these two windows. And I did these big long rows. These are the only solid rows of white down here of ecru. And then I thought I would start on the door. So I've done 3 rows, but even, or 4 rows, even that's 20 stitches.
Wow. Nice.
So, you just,
Exciting.
it's way more than you think it is.
Right. Well, stitching always is, right? So I'm doing R2D2 from Spot Colors. I'm working on BB8 to the bottom there. So I'm going to show it to you upside down. And that's where I got to. So I filled in most of the gray on this side and then did the top there. So I only managed 78 stitches today, but it was a lot of counting.
But
So
you laid a lot of groundwork.
yes. So I have one more row of the gray up here, and then it's all fill in from there. So
I'm sure Keisha's going to finish doing that row today so that she can be on.
you're right.
On the
I'm going to
second
do
color
that as we
connection.
say goodbye to everybody. But yeah, so then you know what? I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that maybe next time I can finish this.
I bet you will, because you won't have to count as much.
Yep, it'll just be filling in.
Yours definitely needed more precision today than mine.
Ah, that's okay. I like counting.
And thus, your Instagram name, right?
Counting for stitches, which, someday I'll post on again. Sorry, everyone. I'm bad at doing that.
We definitely, if you don't check our drop down below on our videos, we list every project that we do, usually. And we also have our Instagram names down there, as well as our email and whatever else you might need to get in touch with us.
Right.
I did want to say that last week I was trying to talk about the people who had shouted us out for the under 1000 sub club, and I went brain dead halfway through. And I could not at the moment think of Cade's Crafts, although it didn't take me very long, as you guys got to see. You weren't supposed to. And we even waved around, and I should have been able to pick that up when I did editing, but I missed it. So I've already contacted Stephanie and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I just had that little brain moment and didn't come up with it right away.
Right.
So, and we get to have a fun chat because of that.
Well, that's good. Yeah, sorry we didn't remember it right off the top. And then yeah, so now you guys know the secret. Whenever a noise happens, or maybe there's a baby cry, maybe there are cats that run behind Laura. You never know what's going to go on in our houses. Whenever we're like, okay, this is where you need to cut and start up, we do this. I usually make a face. Laura doesn't usually make a face. I make a face. But so now you know the secret.
Yeah, and you got to see us do that just wildly.
No,
Mine are always in circles.
Yeah, we do circles. I do dances. Sometimes there are dances.
Thankfully, it was not a bad one when we did that.
Not that it usually is, but you know how things go. The one time that somebody sees something that you're doing is going to be like the, oh no. But I guess all that to say, thanks for the lovely shout outs. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to us ramble about our trip. Again, if you have any suggestions of cross stitch shops for us to go to, we'll probably go there. So thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
Bye.